Hello?
Hi.
Hi, could you switch on your video for me?
Okay, let's see. I have to, there we go. All right. My son, my
Hi.
son teases me about, I'm not the most computer savvy person, but I figured out how to do that. That's good.
Thank you. It's great
So
to
it's
finally get to talk to
nice to
you.
meet you.
Yeah, I'm Shagun, by the way.
Okay, and I'm Barbara.
Yeah.
Nice
Um,
to meet you.
yeah, so I'll get started then. Um, so when you read a certain text, a children's text, obviously it's not as detailed as the ones you probably read as an adult. So how do you actually create your illustrations when you're given not as much to work with? What exactly is the process that you follow?
I think that with a picture book manuscript, if you gave the same text to 10 different illustrators, you'd get 10 different versions of
Yeah.
it. And you're given something that's pretty vague, like the dog walked down the street. So you have to think about the street, and it may possibly, you probably have a fairly good idea if it's an urban setting or a suburban or a rural setting from the entire story. But you really call on details from your own personal experience, the dog you've known, the streets you've grown up with, that sort of thing. And usually when an editor picks an illustrator to illustrate a manuscript, they're very mindful of the fact that that particular illustrator will bring to the manuscript their very distinct visual experience. So, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of it's almost, it's almost free association, I guess. You read a manuscript, you not only do you develop the character, but you also have to do a parallel pacing of how the pictures are going to be displayed. In fact, I have a little dummy book. I'm going to take you on a studio tour since I have you on Skype. Okay. So this is my studio. The walls are full of artwork that I'm working on right now for a book, Adele and Simon in China. And I have a lot of bookcases. And here is one of the pieces of artwork that I'm working on now. I've got to color this over the next 2 days. Yeah. It's a silk farm. And I'm using some of the color palette from 1010 to as an inspiration for some of the work I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to make you really dizzy because I'm moving around and moving this phone around. Let's see. Find those drawings. So now I'm going to take you back over here. We're zipping back over to the flat files. And to get, let's see, is this the right one? Sorry. So I wanted to start doing research with sketches, more sketches and doodles of costumes and things. And also starting to, so I go to libraries. I either go online and find costume detail, or I go to libraries, and here are just some little doodly ideas that have nothing to do with the story, but it sort of feeds the energy of how I will approach the story and the characters. So I began, this is my drawer for 12 Dancing Princesses, and I just have books with just costume detail and patterns and fabrics and, all kinds of things, masks. And from that, I will develop.
And I can see that there's so much imagination involved, along with your research. It's a lot of imagination. And, I know as we grow older, we tend to lose that sense of imagination. I know even I started to lose my sense of imagination. So how have you managed to keep that with you as you've grown older? And how have you managed to keep that with you, basically?
Well, I'm horrible at math. I'm a failed waitress. There are just so many things I can't do that I think I had to kind of tenaciously cling to my imagination. And it's true that it can fade because we have so many other things we have to think about. Like I have a mortgage, I have car insurance, I have, just all of the necessities of life that I have to pay for, taxes, all that fun stuff. But it's really important to just learn how to manage all of that and just keep that sense of imagination clear and keep feeding it by going to museums and reading and just going to any kind of cultural event you can, because you can extract information that feeds your imagination from dance or from theater or all kinds of things, music. I was just reading something about Lewis Carroll this morning and Alice in Wonderland, and there's a portion of text in Alice in Wonderland where she says, "Oh, I woke up this morning and I don't think I'm the same person I am now." And I think that happens in the process of life as we mature. We have, peaks and valleys of time when we are really productive and we are imaginative, and then it quiets down and maybe that's a time to do other things. And then that imaginative surge comes back. So,
The next thing I said was, we all know the quote, "Don't judge a book by its cover." But for really young children, your target audience, of course, for them, the cover, it matters a lot. So out of all the, parts of the story, and how do you decide which exact illustration you're going to use for the cover of your book?
Well, actually, I think illustrators used to have more say about their covers, but as publishing becomes more and more driven by the marketing department and less by the editorial department, book covers kind of fall under the sway of marketing departments. So it's so your point about the cover being very important is absolutely true, and it's the marketing point of every book. And so my covers now are really, it's a committee decision that's made by my editor, my art director, and the marketing department. So they'll either pick an image that they like from the artwork in the book, or they will ask me to, I've been asked to redo covers several times to fit, marketing's idea of what they think is going to sell. A book I just completed for Scholastic, a ballet book, I went through several different cover revisions for them, and they finally decided that they wanted a pink curtain in the back because the color pink would sell the book. So I didn't even draw the pink curtain behind my characters. The art director, under the direction of the marketing department, drew that. So
well, you also had done a book and music project with Natalie Merchant, Leave Your Sleep, and that was so unique to me because it's like, apart from the lyrics, I'm sure you had to look at also the musical aspects of it, the pace and the rhythm of the song. So how do you actually incorporate that into your illustrations?
Well, every one of those songs, Natalie had a very different musical adaptation to each of those poems. So she went from Zydeco to something that was very orchestral and 19th century in feeling, and very jazzy things. And so I certainly listened to all of that music, and I tried to get a sense of some things that were very classical, like The Land of Nod, the Robert Louis Stevenson poem that was very 19th century in feel and very epic and romantic, and then to do Ebenezer Bleezer and the Ice Cream Store, so something that was much more playful and more vignette-like, because we also had to, the text took up a certain amount of space on the page, so that was also another consideration, was how, was the artwork going to fit in the margin, or would there be a double page spread, or various things that would go into that. So they're definitely, some of the drawings I think are much more playful and animated, and that was driven by the music, the sensibility of the music, the sensibility of the poem. It was a great project to work on. It was really a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
That sounds nice. um, so for our budding illustrators, how would you suggest that they, start practicing, and how do they know that they're actually going in the right direction with their work,
Well, I recommend to everybody to join the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that organization?
No, I'm not aware of it.
Ah, okay. Well, as soon as you're off the phone with me, Google SCBWI. It's an international organization that is Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators that is dedicated to working with people who are just starting out as authors and illustrators. And the second thing is that, it's a challenge. When I first started out, the first art directors I talked to said, it's very hard. It's a hard field to break into. It's hard to make a living at it, all of this sort of thing. And those elements are all true. But I think the most important thing is to be true to yourself. And you want to be a unique voice that's going to stand out in, the sea of people who are, writing and illustrating books and sending in manuscripts. Just don't give up. You just have to be tenacious and just keep submitting. Dr. Seuss's first book manuscript was rejected 22 times. So rejection is just part of it. And once you get into the process of sending manuscripts out and getting published, and that's just part of it. And just you have to have a thick skin and just not give up. And also, I think now the way that, I got involved in publishing 40 years ago, so the way that I submitted manuscripts is probably really different than the way people breaking in today do. And I imagine there's a whole blog presence and internet presence that if you kind of publish online first and you develop a following, then that's something that would be very appealing to a publisher, that they would see that you had a certain fan base.
People who want to actually take it up as a profession, is it something that, would it be like a steady career, or is it something with ups and downs, and would you need to probably take another profession as would this be like a sideline job? Because is it basically is it steady,
It can be, and there are so many factors that play into that, because it's I know a number of writers, like Jane Yolen comes to mind, who they've written really popular books, or Kate DiCamillo. They've written books that are very popular, that have sold really well, and they have a reputation. So they have a royalty base. They are able to sell manuscripts more easily to publishers because of their reputations. So for some people, they have a very solid financial base to work with. Most people, it's up and down. It's very, you can sell, you sign up multiple book contracts with a publisher, so that you have maybe 3 or 4 contracts that are untitled. I think that's becoming kind of rare now in the way that publishing is going, but that way you can fulfill a contract and then move on to the next one, so it's more predictable. But it really just depends. If you write something and it touches the zeitgeist of what's going on in the world, and you sell well, then you're set. You can make a tremendous amount of money. I mean, the few people, that 1% of people at the top writing, can just make a tremendous amount of money, and then everybody else. But don't quit your day job until you get that book that's a bestseller. And then probably when I first started out, I talked to a very successful photographer who gave me really good business advice, because it is a business. If you're writing and you're selling and you're making a living, you're a freelance business person and an entrepreneur. And you have to have a certain kind of tolerance of risk if you're going to do this professionally, because it is, you do go up and down. But the two pieces of advice this photographer gave me was keep your overhead low. So don't, buy the most expensive top of the market, apartment or house that you can when you do start making money. Just really kind of keep your expenses down. And then the second thing is try to keep a year's income in liquid assets. So if you're paid, and that's really hard to do these days. It's the cost of living is so high. So maybe 6 months would be more realistic, but it can take a publisher, let's say that you hand in a manuscript, you finish your manuscript, you hand it in. Most contracts, most people are paid either in 2 parts or 3 parts. It's either when you sign the contract and then when you hand in the work, you get 2 payments. Or it's you sign the contract when you hand in a draft of your manuscript and then you hand in the finished manuscript. So that's a 3-part. And if you can have a teaching job and a regular income coming in, that never hurts. It's really good. And once you get to a certain level as a professional writer, people want you to come and speak. So that's another way of generating income. You can charge to do speaking engagements. And if you're a member of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, they pay to have authors travel to places all around the world. So if you want to go to France to do research for a book, you can contact their chapter of SCBWY and say, I'm coming to France. I'd like to set up some talks. Can you help me do that? And they have connections with schools and universities, and they can get funding for you to go in and speak in schools wherever you travel.
That's all the questions I had. So thank you so much for your time. It was great talking to you.
Well, best of luck too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, very nice meeting you.
Yeah.